In this video, I do a quick update on the price of GameStop stocks and where the price could potentially go from here. So it's a bit of a stock price prediction based on recent market action. So we're going to have a look at the chart in just a minute. Let's quickly cover news when it comes to GameStop. And this is where it gets very interesting. You've all, I'm sure, already heard the narrative. I mean, they're talking about GameStop everywhere, every news channel. You can see they're even talking about it on random late night kind of shows, etc. So it's massive at the moment. Now I think that's really important. And the reason why it's important is, look, a couple of weeks ago, a few people knew about GameStop and we saw the price kind of breaking out a little bit. But now because it's so widespread and now because we have this massive narrative, which is all of these hedge funds, all of these people who caused all of the problems back in 2008, 2009, they never got any punishment for it. Now it's time for us to kind of fight back. So these are all the retail investors. So the average man and woman from around the world who has a little bit to invest. And the thing is, especially here in the UK and many other countries right now, we're in lockdown or semi-lockdown. So everybody's at home. They're on their computers. It's easier than ever to get onto a trading platform and trade and buy and sell stocks, even stocks on a little bit of margin. So you've got all of that kind of power there and momentum. And I think because this narrative is going to strengthen, there is some massive opportunity. And I'm going to discuss that in this video. And I don't actually think, funnily enough, it is with GameStop. I think GameStop is just going to be the first. I think this is going to stick around for a short while. It's kind of like what we saw in 2017 with Bitcoin and the other altcoins in that bull run, when slowly things got going and then you saw returns of 100% turn into 1000%, and then everybody knew about it, and then it was a massive bubble, and then we had a massive crash. I think the same thing is going to happen, but not in GameStop. I think now's the opportunity actually in a few other stocks, which I'll get onto in just a minute. So what's the narrative we're actually seeing? Well, what we're hearing is financial markets rocked this week, battle initiated by ordinary people against those usually dubbed as market manipulators or even market makers, for that fact, which I'll get onto in just a minute. So hedge funds. And as I highlighted in my last video, there's nothing to say that GameStop as an actual company, their fortunes are changing at all. There's nothing to say that. This is basically a technical breakout based on the number of people who are short this particular stock and the mass amount of interest and buying suddenly for no reason at all. So loads of people are just buying GameStop. I even know a couple of people who have bought GameStop in the last 24 hours for no reason more than it's going up in price. And this part I actually agree with. The stay-at-home message demanded people to look at other ways to perhaps make some money or make their money work, and because they have time as well, and because it's so easy to invest on Robinhood. Well, it hasn't been obviously for the last 48 hours. These platforms are having a lot of glitches right now and problems. And it's also to the point where they're not even allowing you to buy GameStop. I think that's reversed today, but that's what was happening yesterday. You were only allowed to sell. And this actually, funnily enough, funneled this conspiracy against the regular Joe. And this is what actually works sometimes in creating market euphoria. But this is the interesting part, the narrative, where I think there is a big opportunity in the short term. And I'm talking kind of like the next 6 to 8 weeks before perhaps, who knows, new regulations come in, things are clamped down in terms of what you can and can't say on social media. I mean, there is censorship already on social media. We saw that with Donald Trump, for example, on Twitter. But what we're hearing right now, so activism clearly spreading, while dozens of other heavily shorted stocks have been targeted, there are clearly elements of the activist community intent bringing down hedge funds. Even death threats have been reported. And a couple of, like I said in the last video, high profile billionaires are actually seemingly on the side of the little guy when it comes to this situation. Okay, but this is where you have to be careful if you're chasing a stock like this now. So the likes of Robinhood, they've had surging customer demands, but what a lot of these platforms have had to do is suspend new customer applications, or even, like I mentioned, to stop users buying more shares in GameStop. And they've been having a lot of platform outages. In fact, Robinhood had to actually raise more than $1 billion in extra emergency funding to prevent further limits on customer trades. And by the way, one thing I would say, and this is a little bit controversial, it's just a theory and I've got no evidence to back this up, but one thing I would say is with some of these trading platforms, especially where you can buy margin, you have to be a little bit careful, because for 95% of people who are trading there, retail investors, what the platforms do, along with other massive funds, is they actually take the opposite position to you. As soon as you place a trade, so let's say you place a trade where you want to buy Tesla, they automatically take the opposite trade against you. That's part of the way they actually make their money. Now, you won't hear about much of this on the news, but that's what actually happens. Now, the problem with that for them as a platform is this works because 95% of people lose money, usually when trading with margin. But how it's not working now is because there's so many people interested and because the stock is moving so fast and everybody's just buying as much as they can at the moment anyway, the platforms could potentially lose a lot of money by taking the opposite trade, especially if you're just buying on margin and you're not buying the underlying stock. So that's something you just have to be mindful of. When they say you're not allowed to buy anymore, but you are allowed to sell, yes, part of that might be because of outages they're having, regulatory reasons, etc. But part of it might be, look, they're probably losing a lot of money, or somebody affiliated with the platform could be losing a lot of money. Just my opinion, but just be aware of that. And let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. So that begs the question here, do you buy something like GameStop? Let's have a look at the current price right now. Now, what we have to do, because of the parabolic rise, this is just a mess here at the moment. You have to get onto a log chart and actually onto a much smaller time frame. So I'm going to jump onto a 15-minute. And the first thing to know is that fall. Unfortunately, we have a bit of pre and post market trading, but you don't have futures like you might do on some of the other stocks. But what you can see here from that fall, so from 480 all the way back down briefly to the 110 mark, that was actually a fall in GameStop of 76%. That's one of the largest falls I've ever seen in such a short period of time on any stock. But the question is, was that all one big correction, and are we actually having one more parabolic rise higher? Now, this is the issue when it comes to investing in GameStop. Now, if you're looking at this, and I think there is a possibility you could count this as an impulse up, a correction, and now we're beginning a next rise up. Now, if you want to count it that way, then what we're looking at, just using kind of basic Elliott wave, is we're looking at another impulse up. This could be a final impulse, but this could potentially move the price. Like I mentioned in my last video, we could get up to the $800-900 region. The massive problem with this is already I think it's the largest cap already, or it might be the second in the Russell 2000. This taking it up here to the $800 level is like comparing it with a big tech company all of a sudden for no reason at all. So there's only one outcome of this. If we do move up, there will be a massive crash. That's, in my opinion, for sure. It's just, when is that going to happen? Now, the other issue is if we do get another leg up, and the important level here is the all-time high already. If we break above that high, even by a little bit, then you would have to say there's a strong argument we could potentially double from here and move towards 800. Now, in terms of what's going on right now, I've just been watching in pre-market. So let me just drop onto a 5-minute chart. So from market open, basically today we've had a small sell-off and consolidation. What's interesting is we've not had a massive collapse in the price already. It does seem to be consolidating. The two key levels here, the main one to watch here is this low. It's around the 195 to 200 level. If we get back there, now again, this was very, very brief because the end of trading yesterday, and then in pre-market we opened way up. I think it was something like 70% or something up that we actually opened. Now, if price finds support here, then there is a potential opportunity that we could move up again for another massive leg. But if we break down, then what you have to say is this could have been a 5-wave move down. So this is a 1 and then a big 2, and then we're going to collapse from there. So we may already be done as well. I think it's difficult to say at the moment. In my eyes, personally, it's 50-50. I mean, price is moving so much, but it's not only the price alone. You have to add to that all of the complications. So we're talking about the SEC, whether they're going to be involved, then they might not be involved. Because remember, if they get involved, this does affect people who are trading options, for example, here. They may have their positions frozen for 1 or 2 weeks. You also have to add the trading platforms. What if suddenly there's more outages? That causes panic. So if there's an outage or trading keeps getting halted again and again, some retail investors will panic and then sell as soon as it opens back. That will tend to obviously promote a price collapse rather than a price rise. So there's a few other options there. Now, should you invest in GameStop? I'm personally not. And the reason I'm not is, well, it's very, very simple, because I wouldn't mind taking a punt on something like this. But the problem is this, where we are at the moment, so let's mark it up. It's around 310. That's where we are at the moment. The thing is, when you're investing in something like this, it's very similar to kind of cryptocurrency. You're looking to make multiple gains, anywhere from 2x all the way to, well, potentially a lot of people in GameStop have already made 100x and more they had invested last year. So you're looking to make massive multiples. If the price is already at 300, your best case scenario here is 6, 7, 800, around that region. Your best case scenario is 2x, which might sound like a lot. But what is your risk here? Because the major support might be be something like 110. If you look back on multi-year support, as I discussed in the last video, that's at 60, 70. So your risk here is massive. So is it worth the reward you're taking? Let's say you invested $1,000 to make another 1,000, but your risk is 70 or 80% of that value. I don't think it's worth it. In fact, what I think is much, much better is watching very closely on things like the Reddit forums, because I think GameStop is definitely going to repeat in at least a handful of other stocks before there are massive wholesale changes, much like we saw with crypto, with one altcoin taking off, then a lot of the others following for, again, no reason at all. And the beauty about that is if you find another one early and you're able to invest in it while it's still trading around, let's say for argument's sake, compare it to GameStop, around the $5 to $10 mark, then your risk might still be 50%, but your reward could be 50x or 100x. So I would say monitor very closely. That's what I'm doing at the moment. Now, this is not financial advice, and I don't want to jump onto this channel and say, look, you should follow this one and that one because I'm invested into it. No, you have to do your due diligence. What I'm saying is look very, very closely at certain stocks. Now, if you want me to have a look at a few that you think could be pumping at the moment, please mention them in the comment section below. Perhaps in the next video, I might cover 5 or 10 of them in a row in the same video, and we can have a look at the potential, mainly again in terms of risk or return, because we can agree here. I mean, if you disagree with this, please comment below. We can agree here that the fundamentals mean nothing right now, and we could also agree that this is a brand new trend we've seen in these heavily shorted stocks that will stay for a while. I think you have a few weeks to jump on the bandwagon here in a few other stocks before it dies out. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll do another update on this soon. Thanks very much for listening.